Hello and welcome to this week's Granny's Garden. Now this week I'm going to be showing you how to do a rejuvenation pruning on your Spiraea Bridal Wreath. Now one of the first videos I ever did on this channel was precisely pruning a Spiraea Bridal Wreath, but that was the standard yearly pruning. This is different, this is a rejuvenation pruning. So what I want to do is take you up to the end of the garden where there is a Spiraea Bridal Wreath that I did a rejuvenation pruning on last year, and you're going to see the results. It's truly spectacular. Now this shrub had been neglected for years. It was way high, 9 foot high, and had invaded my neighbour's garden. And worse still, it was leggy, and any of you who have followed me for any length of time know I can't stand leggy shrubs. So rejuvenation was in order. And look at the results now. Come around the other end of the camera. It is dense. It has regained these beautiful arching branches. And despite the fact that the flowering period is over, it bloomed like a teenager this year, completely rejuvenated, well worth the effort. So now we're going to have a look at the shrub that's in for the chop this year. As you can see, it looks absolutely nothing like the shrub you've just seen. It's all leggy, and it just hasn't performed flower-wise. It's got a few flowers here at the top, and nothing underneath, just bare legs. Absolutely hideous. And worse still, it's right in the middle of the new shrub border I'm creating. So I'm definitely not having any shrub that's limping along, so the chop it is. So when do you carry out a rejuvenation pruning? Well, it could be done in late winter, which is a good date, or you can leave it flower, although for all the flowers it's put on this year I should have done it in winter, and you can do it just after flowering, and that's what we're doing right now. So what I'm going to do is come in and cut the whole thing right down to about 12 or 14 inches above ground level, and then stop for evaluation. But even before I start, one thing that's very important, sterilize your tools. Now these are the two tools I'm going to be using. This is my bleach mix, or water and bleach mix. So just spray it on and leave it to air dry. And what is important, you do this before you start, and also very important, you do it when you finish, because many people do it before they start and then they forget about when they finish. And then any pathogen that this tree might have, or this shrub might have, you just carry it on to the next one. So, before and after. Don't forget. I've taken it down to about 14 inches, and now it's a great opportunity to go in and have a bird's eye view to see what the situation is. So in we go, and hopefully I won't step on anything. And what I'm seeing now is some older stems, a lot of these small spindly horizontal ones which I've got to take out because of course you don't want it getting any thicker. This is a bit like the forsythia. These branches lay on the ground, they form new branches, and then what once was a central crown gets wider and wider and wider until you're far too wide for a space of this size. So what I'm going to do now is get in and remove the horizontal branches and then reassess again. Always do a specific task, stop and reevaluate. So now it's horizontal branches that are against the ground. I see I've got some more horizontal growth here, and I've also got a wretched honeysuckle. So that honeysuckle is going to get pulled out. Now there's another little horizontal branch here. As you can see, it's already made its way down to ground level, and if it touches here for any length of time, it's going to form a root and then send up another plant like this one here. Probably touched the ground at some stage, and now it's got another plant there, which we want to deal with in a few minutes. But for the moment, horizontal branch disappears, going right back to where it joins the crown. Now, having got rid of the horizontal branches, we can immediately see two things here. First of all, this has now become a separate plant. So this is where obviously a horizontal branch has touched the ground, it has formed a new plant and it has grown up. Second thing is very, very spindly branches. We do like arching branches, but first of all we want them to grow up like this. Like this is a very different type of growth. It's a vertical growth, and then over time through the weight it will gradually arch. We don't want something that flops out immediately, because all it's going to do at this stage, if it's arching, is touch the ground and form another forest of little plants. We don't want that. So these spindly ones, again, we're going to remove them right back at base. Now the next thing I need to do is get rid of this little extra plant that I don't want. Now as you see, it's come up quite easily. So as you can see, I've got the original crown, which I'm going to rejuvenate here on the right. And in the left, well, I've got a little forest. So what I'm going to do is hand pull most of this, because they've got very shallow little root system and come out very easily. See, very easy to pull out. Honeysuckle, the bane of my life. Right, well now we're back to the crown of the parent plant. So let's see what else we can do. This is very floppy already, so I'm not interested in that. Although it's got growth, far too floppy at this stage. So that's coming away. Dead twigs, coming away. You can hear the cut, it was very dead. Right in the centre, a big, dirty, ugly stump, coming away. Spindly growth here, going to get rid of that. Right back flush against the stem. Again, I've got some stumps here in the middle that I'm not interested in. I want to keep that centre nice and open. I might have to do that actually with the secateurs if I can. The lopper's a bit too big to get into the centre. This one is dead. It broke off in my hand. Okay, so the centre is a lot more open. I'm going to get rid of this one because again it's away from the parent plant and I don't want any more plants growing out and making it even thicker than I want it to be. This is what the finished rejuvenation pruning should look like. This is my parent crown. It's now open. You can see that its air can circulate now and light can get in. I've only got the parent plant. All the forest of little self-planted plants have been removed. If you remember, we started off removing the horizontal branches that were making contact with the earth and were sending up little shoots. Then we removed the little spindly ones. Then we decongested the centre. Now, if you've neglected it for a long, long time, the centre could be a complete thicket of tiny branches where you just cut them down to ground level and then leave enough to form a new shrub, but always, again, removing enough to make sure there's air circulating. The branches I've left have got green growth, fresh new branches branching off of them. You see here again, an old wooden stem, but fresh new branches. And these branches are growing vertical. They're not flopping over onto the ground. They're nice vertical branches, so those are the ones I've chosen to remain. I also removed all the dead branches, all the crossing branches, and just left with what will be a nice healthy shrub again. And then of course, after any type of rejuvenation pruning, hit it with fertilizer and hit it with water. Job done. Keep in mind that after the rejuvenation pruning, all of your branches are roughly going to start growing at the same pace. So what I would do in successive years is go in and cut at different levels some of the branches, so you're going to get the layered effect that I love so much in a bridal wreath. Lastly, how often do you need to do rejuvenation pruning? Let your shrub do the talking. Every 3 to 5 years I go in with a very critical eye and have a look. Certainly if your shrub is leggy or is not producing flowers the way it used to, then get in there with your loppers. Since we are in bridal wreath pruning period, what I want to do is take you back to the first shrub that I rejuvenated last year and just give you a quick 30-second recap on how to do a normal pruning. This is a good example. This is a branch that has already flowers. The flowers are completely spent. So what you do is follow it back until you reach the first sign of new growth. Now this is new growth from this year. Now I've got 2 bits of new growth here. One which is facing outwards and one which is facing inwards. And obviously I want the one that's facing outwards. What I'm going to do is, in actual fact, make the snip here, removing the old spent flowers. This is going to grow, and while I'm at it, I don't want this one. So now that it's nice and young and easy to cut, I just give a little snip there. And that's all it is. Now I've got a nice branch coming out here that's continuing along here. And when it gets nice and heavy, at the end of the year, it'll start arching downwards. And that's all there is to it. Just another one there so you can see it. Again, all this spent flowers, and then suddenly you reach vertical growth that's new from this year. So you just come in with your snips or with your secateurs, because these are very narrow branches, snip it off, And that's all there is to it. That's just a quick recap on normal Spiraea Bridal Wreath pruning. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video and now know how and when to do your rejuvenation pruning on your Spiraea Bridal Wreath. And I hope you join me next week here in Granny's garden. Bye-bye now. What's looking good in the garden this week? These first two alliums. See if I can get in close. The first one is Mount Everest. Very, very tall. Look at that stem. Goodness me. And then beside it, Silver Spring. Again white with a little raspberry touch. Isn't that sweet? I've got other ones about to open, but they're not quite there yet. So we'll save those for another day. But for this week, it's definitely Mount Everest and Silver Spring. And still going mad behind it, the yellow irises. See you next week.